it's been a wonderful year and a half listening to you, and so many of the conversations have just answered themselves by listening. And I just find myself in the moment more and more, and was with a wonderful mother with a child the other day, and we took a walk in the park, and I was able to just see how he just there was like no processing, like, you spoke a lot about the robots and whatever. I went to public school, perfect robot in the US, it's like terrible. And as an artist, trying to claw my way through that in many different ways, and and then break free, which is the beautiful aspects of experiencing the breaking of such as it couldn't contain the desire of freedom that then it becomes so nurturing, destructive to the person who wants it, but nurturing overall, so wonderful experiences happening. And back to the previous conversation, which I know may not exist after a while, but what I found is like I say, my desire for relationships, say, was really strong when we talked last time, and I've had many pleasurable and painful experiences trying to hold on to either a person or the idea, but I listened recently to Rupert, and if you follow that desire back into yourself, it's like it either wants to express itself in a person, or back in yourself. And you just mentioned a minute ago before calling, you can follow it back, and basically it's the same thing. You get the experience.
Yeah, I used to, when I was a kid, I worked this out when I was about 14 years old. I used to like Cyndi Lauper. Have you heard of Cyndi Lauper?
Yeah.
And I used to listen to her music, and I would imagine having a boyfriend or girlfriend, or I'd imagine finding that person to complete me, and in the imagining of it, like I'd really imagine it, I would put like cushions around me as if they were hugging me, and then finally, after a period, I would just totally disappear, and there would just be total completion. Like that person that I was imagining for disappeared, and the first, like it kind of really affected my relationships after that, because I realized that there was nothing like that love that I'd wanted from out there was my own love. This was before I knew about no self or self or anything, but I came to the conclusion that if I could feel that love, even if I'm with that person, it's still coming from me. It's still inside this. It's not something that can come from external object. And it was such a beautiful realization when I was that age, although I think it made it a bit complicated in terms of I didn't know how to fit that into society. But it really, like, because anything that you long for, you're longing for it, but you already know what it feels like, otherwise you couldn't be longing for it. So you already know it's your own feeling. If you take out you, it's not really you, it's wholeness's own feeling. But it's nothing outside, but we're always in this idea of it's outside. Somebody can give it to us.
Right, and I guess that's the beautiful part about letting someone be as they are. It's like if you already have that experience inside, if there's a clash of egos or a clash happening in the natural polarity, and actually that's probably why some of that sexual charge starts to dissolve in 2 years, because you get depolarized, because everyone's seeking some sort of comfortable existence with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you allow them to be completely who they are, because you found your source, you can picture sort of that love of that person, even if physically you got to be like, no, this isn't working. And that's been neat for me to experience, is like allow the pain and the misunderstanding to happen, because it's going to, and then just like you don't in the past, you might just like block off or close yourself down, but you just stay open and you process it.
And I think it's been such a trap in our society to think of relationships in long term. Like we're always thinking of it in a long term, and if it's not seen as something long term, if it's seen as an expression, then it doesn't mean that the bodies can't be together for 50 years. But if we think of it as an instantaneous thing, then it really changes the way you see the other. Like the other becomes like a painting in you. It's like a three-dimensional, all-sensory painting, and they come in, and then there's suddenly the painting of you and them together, and then they go out, and then there's a painting of not you and them together. But we have so many binds in our society, and we've got such strong imagining of meeting someone and keeping someone. I think it's sad. I think it kills it, the meeting and keeping someone.
I agree. I agree if you try to do it that way. But what fascinates me is to, I mean, if you paint something for a long time, you can get better at it.
Yeah.
In the sense of, there are these aspects that appear that as personality, and I've always been curious psychologically to I've never been around anyone long enough to really dive into joyous expression, knowing that, oh, this is this, not knowing actually, but keeping it alive with someone consistently
Yeah.
over time.
But I think that the way that you keep it alive with them consistently is always being on the edge of losing them. I know that sounds
Yes, I
really
know.
bizarre, but it's like, it's not that you lose them, but it's like you're always on the edge of this could be the last. And that's why sometimes when people that are in marriages or really serious relationships where they think they're in the relationship, when they break up, then when they get back together, there's this most immense sex. But I think also it can be done through the stopping when the identity stops and you stop seeing yourself in that timeline, then everything is becoming very instantaneous. And through its instantaneousness, through its, I can't say that word, like it becomes so alive, so radically alive. Like I love this quote. I think it's a Christian quote. Let's see if I can remember it. To know God is to live in a perpetual state of loss. And I just think that's so beautiful. And I know it could be taken really negatively by the mind, but I think it's so beautiful. Like you kiss the lover, and it's that kiss. It's not about our kiss and we're going to kiss for the next 20 years, or we've kissed for 20 years before. There's this instantness to it. And I don't think it means that you have to go through hundreds of lovers to find that. I think that's what we sometimes use as a solution. It's just stepping out of the way as you and them. And then it's like a beautiful painting or a kaleidoscope that's always changing forms. And them and you are always changing. You're never meeting the same person.
That's right, like a river, you're never in the same water twice.
No,
Yeah.
it's always a different person. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's that willing to lose, that I've just recently discovered.
Yeah.
And I lost, I was in something. Well, I wasn't really, I don't know if I was in it or not, but she didn't seem that interested. But it lasted for a little while, and the whole time I'm like, I just learned something new, and I was like, I'm gonna willing to lose you every single time. But I held the space of love, like just general love, like for another being, whether you accept me or reject me. And the cool part is I lost her, quote unquote, but like I learned something new of, wow, deep pain and deep letting go. And like after a while, you don't even call it deep pain. Like once you learn how to do it, but letting, that's really good. Yeah, letting each moment pass completely, and having that open vulnerability still.
Yeah.
And not closing down on it, I think, is what causes you to reminisce and like, because this moment is perfectly complete here, and you just gotta, I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I just saw a movie recently called Zen, and it was about the life of Dogen.
It's called Zen.
Zen, the life of Dogen.
Yeah.
And old Japan, when he went to China, and just that whole experience. And I had some experience briefly in a monastery, and it's I guess I was reminiscing a little bit of that, of wow, this is so complicated. But what's so fun is like you can actually dance that dance. Like I guess that's it. Is like bringing that love and devotion into a painting.
Is this a new film, Zen?
I'm not sure. I saw it at a bookstore the other day. It was like a DVD night. So it's out on DVD.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's Japanese with subtitles. It's fantastic. The character really, when a character can get into form, like, after reading Dogen and a little bit and experience some koans and what was it, the Book of Serenity. It's one of my favorites. It was cool to like see a character like plodding through all kinds of, they burned down his temple, all kinds of emperors weren't into it, and, just the day-to-day living of food, just bringing all this into, like, he had to really deal with just straight-up regular life. And so you had all the joys and the sorrows, and that's what I enjoyed about it, is they really showed him with emotions, and a lot of times we think of Stoic monks and just allowing the full range of emotions, and I guess
everything, and that's, we don't want a dead painting. You don't want, well, some people do, just a black canvas or a white canvas. Sometimes it's like there needs to be the contrast. You need the colors or the angles or the shapes in order to have the contrast. That's what part of this experiencing is one to the other, one to the other. It's always changing. And we always think that happiness is getting out of feelings, or happiness is not feeling. And it's totally the opposite. It's full on feeling, but it's the person steps out of the way. That person stops holding on to everything and trying to be something. And then everything is on the edge of constantly being lost. Everything is free to be as it is, but not for that person. That all the suffering is based around that illusion of somebody that has a life. And somebody's life's got to look a certain way, and you've got to be a certain thing. In every instant, there's constant change. You and I are different in every instant. Everything is always changing, and the separate self is always trying to maintain the same and keep it still, and it can't. It's a losing. It's like trying to get the water to go back up the stream. It's like a losing battle. It'll never work, but it tries so hard.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun when you finally get to a place where you're like, bring it, it's just exciting.
And there's nothing to be scared of. You can't be, the feelings are the feelings, and they have their range, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Whatever happens is just feeling, because that's the way it's interpreted. It's a feeling. But sorry, carry on, I interrupted you.
No, that's exactly.
It's that the feelings aren't, they haunt us. We believe we're someone, and then we have these feelings, and we're so scared of them, of feeling dead, or feeling not positive, or feeling unhappy. And when they stop, that person begins to lose its grip, and it stops looking at itself constantly, and it stops being afraid of these feelings, then life begins to really truly be lived. In every instant, it's like a yes to life, rather than, oh, hang on, let me just check my feelings. I'm just going to check, it just is life. Life is as it is. And then in the side effect in the body is a joy, because the body isn't restrained anymore. It's allowed to react, it's allowed to respond. It's not sit down, shut up, you've got to be this. It's a response. And it's like when you paint. Are you a painter?
I try painting. I do more with photography and poetry.
Oh, nice. And it's just like that when you're creating, and the best creativity is when you have no idea about what you want to create, when you're not like you're not doing it through a plan. Like there's this spontaneity to it.
Yeah, definitely. Rumi talks a lot about that. Like how it's just the inspired words, and that's where the power comes in. And I think obviously the expression isn't in your words, but the experience of non-duality comes through that. And the same can be for a poem. I've had poems that are just like, wow, it's just, and then when you get a chance to read them to people, and it's like you were saying about not judging people, acceptance part, like even though it may not be words they would use or understanding, they would have the expression is there of the creation and coming through into the experience.
Talking about Rupert, he's an amazing artist. Have you ever seen any of his pottery?
Oh, I have to look at it. I've seen his site, and I love the Zen part of it. You know, it's so simple, and I have to check his pottery session because I just came across him. Really, I'll have to check that out for sure.
I went to his house once, and he had like a massive vases this big, and I just loved the shape and the simplicity to them. Like they would just be a very simple shape, and often they would have like a little inscription about non-duality, but very subtle. It was really just really beautiful, their simplicity.
Yeah, and there's something about clay that's just so, it's that very a wonderful substance.
Yeah, I like the shape and the touch. Oh, well, lovely to speak with you again, Lee.
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, with pleasure. It was nice to speak. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All these lovely people. It's so nice when I meet people again and again. I like seeing people.